So good evening. My name is Elizabeth Wells. I'm the Director of Foundation for College Education, FCE. FCE has been located in East Palo Alto since 1995, and our mission is to increase the number of low-income first-generation students of color from East Palo Alto and surrounding communities to get into and graduate from a four-year college or university. So we are here this evening to share with students and parents of students who are interested in pursuing a four-year college degree directly out of high school, information and resources, and to provide some guidance to help them on that path. And so we do recognize and are aware that there are, definitely other pathways for young people to pursue. But this webinar tonight is focusing on, again, those who are interested in getting into a four-year college or university and successfully navigating that so that they can earn their four-year degree. I want to be sure that I welcome my co-hosts and fellow panelists here. We have with me here several other community members and experts in their area. I want to start by introducing Shawneece Stevenson. Shawneece is a MSW social worker, vice president on Sequoia Union High School District, and she's also works at the primary school here in East Palo Alto. So Shawneece, thank you for being here, and I'll let you do some other introductions.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Jenny Bloom, and she is a senior college admissions counselor, and so happy to have her. She also is the president of Ravenswood School District Board and a mom of two elementary young children. Jenny?
Hi, happy to be here. So I am going to go ahead and introduce Miss Ruth Grigsby. She is the head of inclusion and belonging at Cohesity, and we are excited to meet her and have her here to share with us some of the things that people look for in the workforce, so even beyond the four-year university. So that's going to be something exciting that's part of this panel. And I'm going to ask Elizabeth if you can introduce Roland for us.
Yes, absolutely, with pleasure. So I would like to introduce a FCE student and current college student, Roland Martinez-Luna. He is starting his third year at Stanford University. He will be able to share with us some of his insights and experiences, not only as being part of FCE, but also applying to college and his experience while in college. So Roland, if we can just focus on you, if you just want to say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm from the East Palo Alto community, and through the Tinsley program, I went through schools in Palo Alto, and then I ended up going to Menlo School in Atherton. And then through the help of FCE and my mentors, I eventually ended up at Stanford. So hope to share what my experiences. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I think we have, I'll go ahead and introduce Ruth Grigsby, head of inclusion and diversity at Cohesity. Ruth, do you want to just say hello?
Yes, I'm super happy to be here. I'm also a mom of two adult kids, and my youngest just finished the college experience. He just graduated last spring. So super happy to be here with you all.
Awesome. So again, a few of the things that we're hoping to be able to share with you that you take away from your time with us this evening, just have a general overview, better understanding of the college admission landscape, especially in light of the new affirmative action rulings, different options and pathways offered in high school that support college and career readiness. Shawneece will talk about grit and social emotional well-being that support your academic and social success, as well as hearing from Roland and Ruth in terms of the college experience, and then some of the things that you need to keep in mind as you're thinking about entering the workforce. So with that, all right, so to get us started, the college admissions landscape. So just to give an overall, general overview of the number of colleges and universities that we have here in the United States. we do have, it's the numbers here, over 2,000 private colleges that offer four-year degrees, over 1,600 private nonprofits, and over 1,600 public colleges that offer four-year degrees. And then there's a vast number of institutions that offer two-year degrees. So these would be your community colleges. And just for clarification, in case anyone's wondering the difference between private and public colleges and universities, our public institutions are the ones that are funded primarily by state and federal government, whereas private institutions receive most of their funding through tuition dollars paid by individual students. Right, so of the many institutions that are available here in the United States, we're going to take a look at the acceptance rates. There are about 17 institutions across the country that are very selective and that admit fewer than 10% of the students that apply. About 29% of those institutions somewhat less selective, but still only admit about 10 to 20% of the applicants who apply. But the vast majority, more than half of the institutions across the country, admit at least 2/3 of all students that apply. And so the reason for pointing this out is, yes, there are some institutions or colleges and universities, the Harvards, the Stanfords, that admit very, very few of the total number of applicants. But the vast majority of the colleges and universities across the US do admit the majority of the students who apply. So there is a college or a university for everyone who wants to attend. It's really a question of finding which place is the best fit for you and the best place where you're going to thrive. Next slide. All right. So just wanted to point out some of the data around the number of Black and Brown students who are attending or who are accepted at the colleges and universities across the country. And this is data from the U.S. Department of Education. And as you can see, the number of Black and Latinx students who attend some of the more selective colleges or universities is low relative, to other ethnic groups. And so that's something that we want to be able to address and want to be able to change. We want to increase the number of Black and Brown students who are attending not only college in general, but also, hopefully attending some of these more selective colleges and universities across the country. Next slide, please. One of the important factors as well is to look at the number of, not only the number of students who are being accepted into the colleges and universities, but the number of students who are actually graduating. And so the usual way of measuring, a typical way of measuring is, how many students graduate within 6 years of starting. And here are the numbers, the statistics broken out by various ethnic groups. Again, if you look at the number of Black students, 40% graduate within 6 years or less. Low relative to other groups. So that's again something that we want to tackle and want to address to make sure that we have Black and Brown students graduating at rates comparable to Asian and white counterparts. Next slide, please. All right, and this is just another overview of the 6-year college graduation rates at private nonprofit colleges versus public colleges, and also the rates by gender. So how many females versus males that graduate within 6 years. And this is an interesting piece of data just in terms of the number of people 25 years and older here in the United States who have a college degree. And so this is where the numbers become, pretty stark. Only 28% of Blacks, 21% of those who identify as Latinx, Hispanics have a college degree. So And the reason why this is important is because it also translates into generational wealth and levels of income. So next slide, please. So I know that there's some talk and debate around whether or not college is too expensive, and if it's worth it to go to college, given how expensive it has become. And the answer is still yes. There is a premium to a college degree. And the quote that we have here is the earnings gap between people who have a college degree and those who don't, with a typical college graduate earning about $78,000 in recent years compared to $45,000 for an average worker with a high school degree. And this is according to the Federal Reserve data, so national data. So there's a big difference. Now, of course, there are always going to be exceptions. We'll have certainly cases where there are some individuals who only have a high school degree that have, substantial income, for whatever, variety of reasons. And then of course, there will be some folks with a college degree who are earning less than some folks with a high school diploma. But by and large, the vast majority of folks with a college degree do earn substantially more over the course of their lifetime than those without that college degree. So there is value in obtaining that college degree. And so this slide just breaks down the median lifetime earnings of full-time workers by level of income. So those with a high school diploma, median lifetime earning is 1.6 million. But you can see if you get a bachelor's degree, it doubles. If you have a master's degree, that number almost triples. And so again, looking at the differences in annual incomes, even if you come out of college with anywhere from $25,000, $70,000, $50,000, $75,000 as a cost of getting your full education, undergraduate degree and a master's degree, the amount of median wages that you will earn over the course of your lifetime will more than offset that cost, making it that value proposition to have that college degree, that premium for having the college degree. Next slide. So now I want to talk a little bit about affirmative action and how that impacts the ability of Black and Brown students to get into these colleges and universities across the country. So in California, affirmative action has been banned or has been prohibited since 1996. And that's when California voters passed Proposition 209, which effectively said that public colleges and universities or public institutions in the state of California could not use race as a factor when determining admissions for students. But the proposition only applied to public institutions, public colleges and universities. So there were, there are a number of private colleges and universities that weren't impacted by Proposition 209. So then fast forward to 2023, and again, there's a lot of history between 1996 and 2023, but I'll save you all the details of all the legal cases and all of the legislation that took place in the interim. But in June 2023, earlier this year, the U.S. Supreme Court, otherwise known as SCOTUS, the SCOTUS decided on a case, very high-profile case entitled "The Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard," actually Harvard and the University of North Carolina. And the case was basically a group of students who were contesting these two schools, Harvard and the University of North Carolina, using race as a factor when accepting or admitting students. So the Supreme Court decided that no schools or no colleges or universities, private or public across the country are no longer able to use race as a factor in admissions decisions. Next slide. So what does this mean? What is the impact of this decision around affirmative action? It means that colleges and universities are going to have to be creative and think outside of the box in terms of finding ways to maintain or increase the number of Black and Brown students that are on their college campuses. So, and most of the vast majority of the colleges and universities across the country have come out and made public statements indicating that they are committed to diversity on their campuses, that they understand that there's a huge benefit, not only to a huge benefit for all students on the campus when there is a higher percentage of diverse students who are enrolled and active on those college campuses. So some of the ways that colleges and universities have indicated that they're going to be able to maintain diversity on their campuses is they're relying on the college application essays and letters of recommendation. And Ginny will speak to this a little bit more specifically when she talks. But that's one of the ways in which students will be able to share with admissions officers how their particular background or their unique circumstances have impacted their lives or have made them into who they are, develop their character and attributes, and also how they'll be able to contribute to the overall campus experience. One of the other ways that's been pointed out in the colleges and universities still have at their disposal in order to maintain a diverse pool of applicants is to use bridge and pathway programs for high school students. And so one of the things that we'll be looking at is making sure that students have information about these various pathway programs and bridge programs. One of the other strategies that are that's being discussed is looking more toward income levels and wealth levels of families when making decisions about admissions. Some of the schools have indicated they might look to having more of giving more of a more weight to applicants who are Pell Grant eligible. So if their families have a particular income, fall below a particular income level, so that they're eligible for a Pell Grant, that they will they'll have a higher chance of being admitted to some of those universities and college campuses. So one of the things that we definitely want to make sure to avoid is that students decide that they aren't going to apply to certain colleges and universities because they feel that they may be one of just a few, or maybe the only student who looks like them or shares the same background as them in their classes. And it's sort of dubbed a chilling effect. And we want to make sure that students understand that the vast majority of the colleges and universities across the country definitely want you to apply. They definitely want a diverse student body. And if you have worked hard and done well in school and have done extracurricular activities to enhance your college application, then we encourage you to apply. And especially if you are a lower income student, that's one of the factors that colleges are now going to be looking to. So you actually probably have probably a more likely chance of getting admitted into the colleges and universities, because there's a lot of focus and attention being paid now to the schools and how they're maintaining their level of diversity in light of this Supreme Court decision. So with that, next slide. Of course, I have to make a plug for Foundation for a College Education and highlight the ways in which FCE is uniquely positioned to increase the number of students of color, low-income students who get into and graduate from a college or university. So, of course, we provide outstanding academic preparation. I've highlighted here, our college-bound tutoring. We provide after-school academic tutoring at least 3 days a week to our high school students, so they get make sure that they're academically sound and all the foundational principles of the core courses. In addition to that, we also provide our college advising one-on-one counseling to make sure that all of our high school students are taking a rigorous course load, factoring, making sure that they complete their A to G requirements so that they're eligible for this more selective colleges and universities, and also that they are prepared to take the standardized tests. So we provide SAT prep classes for our students to make sure that they are also competitive with their more affluent peers. We want to make sure that our students don't have to leave a college because of financial reasons. So we make sure our students have financial stability. That comes along with the financial aid counseling that we provide for students and their families in advance of accepting a particular college acceptance letter, and also the financial literacy workshops that we provide to our college students. We also work with our students to make sure that they have connections on campus once they get onto a college campus. And that's provided through our college success advising, soft skill workshops, and just creating an overall sense of accountability with our students. So them knowing that they need to take leadership and ownership of their college experience, reaching out to their professors, their teachers, seeking tutoring or other assistance when needed, and also relying on their FCE community to help them. In addition, providing college tours so that our students can see themselves in these places of higher education, and can help make better, more informed decisions on where they're going to be able to thrive, and what's the best institution for them, as well as providing professional mentoring when they get into college, and mental wellness resources and supports. So with that, I will turn it over to Jenny, who will give more insights and clarifications on options for students who are currently in high school. So thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was great. One of the most important things is we've talked about going to college. And so one of the most important things that you can do in high school is getting prepared to be successful in college, and even prepared so that you are at that point where you can apply to a four-year if that is one of your goals. And so I'm going to go into this first slide, which is starting early in college. So many of you either may be in middle school or you're just entering high school. There's going to be so many different things that are being thrown at you, whether it is from a counselor or if it's from other people in the community, but there's going to be something called graduation requirements. These are the minimum requirements that you have to graduate high school. Meeting the minimum requirements to graduate high school does not make you eligible to apply to a four-year university sometimes. Right? So sometimes, or some colleges and universities, just being able to graduate won't make you eligible to apply to that college. So it's really important when you're talking to your counselors in high school that you are also asking them the questions about, well, I know I don't need it to graduate, but will it help me when I apply to college? As you're thinking about the classes you're taking, and the extracurricular activities you're part of, those kind of things, it's important for you to ask those questions. It's also very important to take the SAT and ACT. Many schools have made it optional. The UCs actually are not legally able to look at the SAT and ACT, but private schools and universities are looking at the SAT or ACT. And you only have to take one. A lot of times that really helps you just to show colleges that you have the experience that you need in order to be successful at school. So it is important to prepare and to study and to do practice tests, because that is what the vast majority of students who are taking the SAT and ACT, they have taken multiple classes before the test. They have taken the test and practiced. So it's really important for you to also consider that as you're looking forward to applying to colleges. The other thing is the A through G requirements. We've talked about that a little bit here and there. A through G requirements are different types of classes that you have to take in order to be eligible to apply to a UC or a Cal State. And those are the state colleges within California. So, and each letter A through G have a different subject. So one is English, one is math, one is science, college prep, social science, visual performing arts, right? So you might not need to have, 2 years or 3 years of math to graduate. But for A through G, you only need 2 that's required to be eligible for math, but they recommend that you have 3, right? So it's really important that you look at some of these requirements and you're aware of them and that you're meeting those things. You don't need a college prep class to graduate from high school, but you do need a college prep class to be eligible to apply to a UC and Cal State. The other thing to remember in an A through G course, especially for the UCs, is that a D is passing for high school, but a D is not going to give you an A through G credit for that class when you apply to college. So even though a teacher or a counselor might say, oh, you made a D, you passed, you'll still be able to graduate. If you want to apply to a UC, University of California school, or a Cal State university, it's important for you to retake that class or take a course that's going to replace that grade. Even if your high school transcript is not changed, that you have it at another accredited place that shows that I might have made a D in pre-calculus, but I retook it during the summer online at this specific, extra course, and I made a B, right? So it's really important that you replace that D in order to have your A through G requirements met to be eligible to apply to college. And then high school has so many different pathways for students and all the different ways that they are able to learn. So I'm just going to quickly go through a few of them. There's something called concurrent enrollment that is also known as dual enrollment. That is when you are taking a college level course in high school. So you could be taking it at the community college. It could be something that you're doing at a pre-college, an online university, but it's a college level course. There are different programs that offer that within, and I'm specifically only going to talk about the Sequoia Union High School District because those are the schools that our students go into from Ravenswood City School District, or if you live in East Palo Alto or Bellhaven, those are the schools that will be your schools, your high school opportunities. So Tide Academy is the STEM-oriented high school at Sequoia Union High School District. And what they do is they have a lot of STEM, science, technology, education, science, technology, engineering, and I forgot what M stands for, but it's there. Math. Thank you, Shawneece. So they will have a lot of concurrent enrollment. So you will be taking college level courses at that school while you're also taking classes within a small cohort of students. So it's like a combined thing, but you stay on the Tide Academy campus for that. Then there's EPA Academy, which is here in East Palo Alto. It's a college prep school, and they're going to be your typical typical high school experience, but in a smaller setting within your city. And so you will have AP courses, which is advanced placement courses. You will have regular courses. You will have all of these things in a smaller setting and a lot of supports that are helping you get there. There's also the very big Menlo Atherton High School, where all of the students from our school district are assigned to. So that school is going to be a school that has a ton of offerings as well. So they do have the advanced placement curriculum. They also have the regular courses. And so there are certain things that they will offer you, and they have, your football team, your volleyball team, your soccer team, your baseball team. They're going to have a lot of those extracurricular activities available as well. And then there's Sequoia, Carlmont, and Woodside, which are also schools within the school district. I believe Sequoia has IB, which is the International baccalaureate program. And with advanced, and let me explain that, with advanced placement and IB or AP and IB, those are college level courses that you're taking on the high school campus. And so your high school teacher will be teaching you this, and then you would take a test at the end of the year. And depending on what you score on that test, specific colleges will decide to give you credit if they decide to give you credit. And it varies college to college. However, taking that course is going to give you a GPA bump. You get an extra point, and depending on the school, and it's a weighted score. So they'll give you that extra GPA boost. And it also shows colleges that you are able to take a college level course and be successful. So it's important for you to think about those things as you are going through high school, as all these different opportunities present itself to you. There's also the middle college academies within the comprehensive high schools. So middle college is where you get to go to community college, take college level courses to meet your high school requirements while on the community college campus. And you will have a cohort of students from your high schools, from the Sequoia Union High School District, that meet together where you have certain classes together, and then you guys take other classes with other students from the community college. So you will have your cohort of high school students, and you will also have your just your regular student, whoever is enrolled that day or that semester at the community college level. This is really helpful for students who the typical college or high school experience is not the right place for them, right? So that you might just be like, I don't like this idea of going to school for 8 hours every day. I want to have kind of a little bit more freedom to choose the type of classes I'm interested in. I also want to be able, I'm a bit more responsible. I'm more independent. I can show up on time. I like walking across campus, seeing different types of people. And also it's a smaller cohort of students that are in the high school setting. So it's a smaller high school cohort, but in a bigger, larger campus in the community college level. So it actually has been really helpful. And I've worked with quite a few middle college students where the typical high school experience was not the right place for them, but the middle college was the right place for them. And they were much more successful in that type of setting than they were in the high school setting. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, it's really good for you to connect with a community member or with FCE, with a mentor, with someone in your college, in your high school campus, and ask these questions about these different pathways to see if one of those is the right fit for you, or a few of these if they're the right fit for you. The other thing to think about is, what is your interest? Do you know what you want to study? I always tell my students in this area, it's really hard because everybody knows what they want to study when they're in kindergarten. But that may not be the case for you, and that's okay. But if you have an idea of what you may want to study, which can also change when you get to college, you also need to look at what classes should I take when I am in high school in order to help me have the strongest application possible when I apply. So if you're interested in medicine or going pre-med or something like that, it's important for you to have AP Chem, AP Bio. It's important for you to volunteer at a hospital, shadow a doctor, do some type of research or independent study. Those things are really going to enhance and show colleges that you've done more than just what was required. You're going above and beyond, and this is an interest that you explored beyond just, oh, that's what I want. That's what I said I wanted to do when I was in kindergarten. For computer science and engineering, it's really important that you have a strong math pathway. If you can get to AP Calculus by senior year, that would be really important for computer science and engineering. For some of you, that means that you would definitely need to do Algebra 1 in 8th grade. If you didn't do Algebra 1 in 8th grade and you do Algebra 1 in high school, it might be really important for you to consider, can I take geometry during summer school, right? So that you can get to that level of AP Calculus, at least by senior year. Just because it, again, shows colleges that you are able to handle the coursework that is necessary in order to be a successful engineer and computer scientist. If your school has AP Computer Science, or if they have programming classes, it's important for you to take that. Do an internship, participate in hackathons. If you are able to do the robotics team, extracurriculars, that's something that's important for computer science engineering. For English, history, law, AP English, Lit, IB English, AP US History, IB History, doing writing competitions, performing, if that's something that if it's like poetry or something like that, things that will really help enhance that. Again, internships, research, that's also included for this section. Psychology, sociology, if you can take AP psychology or even psychology at community college, that's great. Community service and awareness of different mental health issues or anything that is important for serving your community. Research, independent research. Art and music. You would have to create a portfolio if you're doing art. For music, you might have to audition. You would have to consider your performances or where you've showcased your artwork. All of those things matter in the college application process. And so those are things that you can be thinking about while you're in high school and trying to do. One of the things I do want to say is I have this list of stuff, and I know that people will take this list and they'll be like, Jenny said, if you want to study computer science, you need to check off everything on this list. So applying to college is not a science, right? It's not a check, 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 check. It is an art. It means that you should do what you can do and try your best, but you also need to make sure that whatever you do is meaningful to you. You need to be able to answer that why. So you shouldn't say, when they ask like, why were you in robotics? You should be like, Jenny told me to do robotics. That's not an answer. You need to tell me what exactly you liked about robotics. What did you learn? How was your team gelled together or not? Were you a leader on the team? How did it push you to go beyond what you thought you knew in computer science or apply the stuff that you learned in programming so you could fix your robot in that, during the middle of the competition? Those whys are very important. So as I have this list, it's great to do it. But if you don't have a why of why it's meaningful to you, then it really doesn't translate. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next thing. If you want to be successful in high school, it's really important that you talk to your teachers and talk to your mentors. Flex time, consultation time, building relationships. So when teachers say, I'll be here before school or I'll be here during brunch, go by and ask them questions. They are there for you. And it's really important for you to practice that now, because when you get to college, it's going to be important for you to be able to do that, because the professors will only be there during their office hours, and they're not going to, talk to you during class and say, hey, meet me during my office hours. If you go to a small private school, they might. But at a large public university, they are not going to do that. So you have to be the person that is proactive in doing that. And that's going to be helpful for you. The other thing is that's how you build relationships with your teachers, so that when it comes down to getting those recommendation letters, they know and they have something to write about because you met them during these times. Ask for help. It's important to ask for help along the way and not just at the end. Don't wait till the day before the exam to ask for help. Don't wait till your grade is at an F to ask for help. That first quiz, that first test that you didn't do well on, go and talk to your teacher to find out, what can I do from now until the next quiz so that I can be successful. One of those things is reading ahead and reviewing notes. I tell my students, you need to read ahead every week and you need to review your notes every day. So that's beyond homework. So all of you guys are probably like, oh, I'm doing homework, I'm good, I studied. Reviewing notes is different than doing homework. So you need to review your notes and study. Repetition of the material and being able to ask questions is what's going to help those things stick in your head. Use the resources that are made for you. There's investments that are being made to make tutoring available. I know at SUHSD, there's free tutoring available online. There's so much stuff that's available to you that you should take use of, because that's paid for. When you go to college, there's going to be a tutoring center. Your tuition dollars pay for that tutoring center. Go see the tutors. They are there to help you. Your tuition dollars are paying for it. So make sure you make use of those resources. The college essays. So as we said, the college essays are changing because of this new ruling. So I know that Harvard actually changed their essays so that they have 5 questions that they are asking students now instead of just 1. I believe the University of Virginia is also offering applicants a chance to explain their backgrounds and experiences and how they're going to contribute on campus. I know University of Washington, Seattle already had a diversity statement. University of Michigan asks, who are you in a community and what's your place in it, right? They're wanting to know about your lived experience and your context. That's what colleges use these essays to learn about who you are and who you will be on their campus. So again, sharing what's meaningful to you and in the context of your activities and clubs, it's going to be really important to show colleges, this is who I am, this is what I've experienced, this is what I've gone through, and this is who I will be on your campus. So again, high school is a time to learn more about who you are and what you like to do. So take risks, try and work really hard, because if you do that, you're going to be successful. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Shawneece, which I think this is a great segue into her section.
So I'm going to try to do this in 5 minutes, y'all, so that we can get to the really important folks on the panel, which is Ruth and Roland. I'm going to talk about grit and social and emotional learning. I'm coming from the perspective of social work and social and emotional learning, but also being a first-generation college student. So when you think about going to college, there's a couple of things that come up for me is the grit and social and emotional well-being that really can support your academic and social success for college and beyond. And even more importantly, you're practicing it in high school. So grit is the raw endurance and perseverance and passion that keeps you going despite obstacles. And so when we're thinking of that, next slide, please. When we're thinking of that, we really want you to have a growth mindset. It really is being flexible, right? So it's what you believe in about yourself. Growth mindset is about your ability to embrace life challenges, to learn and grow, and building your resilience, which is the ability to bounce back. And I have in green recover, because I'll talk a little bit about that, and grow and thrive. So when we're thinking about that growth mindset, it is not sacrificial, hard, I don't know how to heal, but it is this ability to get back up, to dust yourself off, to heal, to keep on moving, because that creates perseverance in you, especially when things aren't quite going your way or you're not given a pillow. And so we want you to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. Next one. So when we're thinking about that mindset is really important. There's ways to really begin to think about how to build that grit in yourself or that growth mindset. And so between high school and college, because it just doesn't start and end in high school, and it doesn't stop and end in college, is actually a period in which you're in. And it's the period of exploration. It's your time to discover you. So if you're not like the person to the right or left who know exactly what they're doing, what pathway they're going, it's okay, because that's typical too, not to know what your pathway is right now. So in order to find what your passion is and discover who you are, what you believe, what you're passionate about, what has really supported you, you find an interest by trying something new. You join something that builds grit, such as sports or drama or club or robotics. You get connected within your high school and college and ask for help. And I would say that also accessing and activating your voice. Of course, as a social worker, I kind of like favor this one a little bit more, but you're invited to share your voice. And sometimes that invitation is sometimes it feels like a ripped up invitation. It doesn't feel authentic, but sometimes you're not invited in the sense of please come, please come, please come. But to know that even if you're not giving the perfect invitation, that you make room at the table for your voice, even when you're the only one. And most times, some students, depending on their characteristics, how they identify, they may be the only one at the table, and it's okay. It's okay to reframe that you are courageous and you are a trailblazer. And so you can be an example for yourself and for those who come behind you. Also think about from a strength-based perspective to speak to that inner voice. I don't know about anyone else on this panel, but definitely have had imposter syndrome. And so sometimes we just fake it until we make it. And that's okay too. But you also have to reframe your thinking that I can do the work that is being asked of me. I am not less than, I can do this, I can buckle down, I may have to use some resources, or better yet, I do know how to do this. My inner voice is just telling me that I can't. And remember that you are a trailblazer. Also build time to rest and heal. Remember, recover. We are learning now. My parents were of the 60s and 70s. And it was just like, pick up and keep on going. Don't have time to cry. Let's get up and go, right? The new way of doing that we realize for long-term health, that you do have to have this time of rest and healing to manage your stress, because stress is going to be a part of life. And hopefully Ruth will tell us that is like part of stress is working. even if it's good work. So give yourself margin in your life. Think about the notepad of paper. There's a margin on the end. So don't fill yourself up until you have no place to breathe. And we need to breathe, real breathing, and to be able to have fun, to find healthy things outside of substances and things of that sort, to be able to manage your stress. Create a resilience plan and practice the skills before stress comes. And I always think about this with my daughter with sickle cell who had pain crisis. And she had to go through a lot of, there's ways to manage her pain through medicine, but also wellness practices such as breathing, changing the way she thinks, exercise. And I could remember when she had a pain crisis and she started using what she was practicing and was able to go back to school because she learned how to breathe. She changed her thought pattern to be more positive. And I always think that's not just for health, but it is for academics as well. There are some things that are just gonna, I don't know about you, but I get butterflies. So like there's gonna be some things that you're gonna face. Next one. And then this last piece is from some work that I do with Barry Community Health Advisory Council. And I love this quote, and it talks a little bit about the power of therapy and talking to someone special. But as we think about resilience, we often die from stress of microaggressions or what we think microaggressions are as well. And what can we do? You can find your people, you can research your personal history, or talk to a therapist or someone you trust in your life about your experiences. Talking increases the longevity of your life. And I will say, when you're facing the hardest things at school, talking increases the longevity of your life. It helps you to manage your stress and get back in there and do the hard work. I'm sure Roland will tell us there are times when you just have to get back in there, even when it's difficult. And some people can just pick themselves up because they have a secure base, like a family, a friend, or a mentor. And some people need specific supports, and counseling is okay. So what I'd like to say in my parting words is find your people, find your people, find your people. A club, it could be an affinity group, it could be a friend, whatever it is. Find a trusted person to talk to. It's okay to explore your life with the help of a coach, like myself, a life coach, or a therapist, a mentor, or another professional. Know you are enough and that this world is a better place because you showed up today. And so you bring something that no one else can. And so now I want to turn it over to Ruth.
Great. I'm super happy to be here to hear what employers are looking for. So when that time comes when you're looking for a role, you can, or now till then, you can keep these things in mind. So I would like to call out that it's no longer just about technical capabilities. You know, those skills will get you an interview, but they're not going to land you the job. You know, technical skills alone will not, make you successful in the workplace. So I mean, of course, you absolutely want to hone your technical skills. So whatever your area of interest is, whether that's communications or engineering, coding, writing, et cetera, definitely hone those skills. But there are several other skills that are super critical to finding success in the workplace. So I worked with my manager and a couple of the leaders that are on our recruiting team, and I put together a list to share with you all today. It's the top 10 skills. So I'll try to get through this quickly. I know we're short on time. So first one is cyber literacy, also known as data literacy. This encompasses the skills to learn, to work, to navigate everyday life in our digital space. These skills include the ability to use devices, software, applications, and use all of those safely and with confidence. So people with strong cyber literacy skills can communicate and collaborate easily using these skills, and they keep on top of new technologies and understand how staying safe online is very important and how that might impact your job and the business that you're working for. The second skill is data literacy, also known as data visualization. I'd say for that, most companies right now, data is one of their most important, valuable business assets, which means organizations will want to employ people that are able to take data and use it effectively. So in the average business context, data literacy means being able to access appropriate data and work with it confidently. So to build this skill, you'd want to work on extracting meaningful data and then communicating database insights to other people, colleagues. And rather than just blindly following the information that's given to you, you also need to be able to question the integrity and validity of any of the data that you're working with. Up next for skills I'd like to highlight is teamwork and collaboration. Collaboration improves the way that teams work together and problem solve. Over the last few years, the nature of collaboration and teamwork certainly has been changing. You know, teams are evolving into more hybrid work environments, and some employees are working fully remote, and we've got contractors and potentially even other employees from within the business who flow between projects and teams. So, you know, in this new world, this new space, you will need to be effectively able to collaborate and communicate with a variety of colleagues and coworkers. So that skill is super important. Next is adaptability and flexibility. So change, and things are always changing. And as we move into the future, change is going to be even more driving factor than it is today. We'll have to contend with new technologies and rising automation, the rapidly evolving pace of work, and most likely regular and vast business disruptions. So this means that we all need to develop mental resilience to thrive in times of constant change. Adaptability, or the ability to adjust to new conditions, is absolutely key to this. Adaptable people are open-minded, they're curious, they're willing to change and learn new things, and they focus on opportunities instead of obstacles. Up next is, hopefully I'm not moving too fast, I'm just trying to get through this, is critical thinking. We're all in the era of fake news and social media and absolutely information overload. So critical thinking is at the top of the list of most vital skills to cultivate for success. To think critically means analyzing issues and situations based on evidence rather than hearsay, your personal opinions or biases, and being able and being about to question the validity of that evidence and figure out what's true and not in a variety of the situations. Up next is emotional intelligence. The ability to express and control our emotions. An emotionally intelligent person is aware of their emotions and how that their emotions influence their own behaviors and impact others around them, and is able to manage those emotions accordingly. For me, empathy is a key component. It's the ability to see the world from somebody else's perspective. Super important. 3 more skills to mention. Up next is creativity, which is the act of turning imaginative ideas into reality. So creativity is one of the most desirable skills in the future workspace, especially as we hand more and more routine tasks over to machines. So creativity is what enables creative thinking. So for example, coming up with new ideas and problem solving, imagining beyond the status quo. So implementing ideas to fix issues and make things better. I like to also highlight another skill, which is relation building and networking. So knowing people of various professional levels can also expose you to a wider variety of job opportunities. Once you develop a relationship with someone, you may be able to leverage their connections to get your foot in the door for a new role. And one other tip as it relates to relationship building, you're always going to run into difficult people. So for instance, don't quit a group project just because you're dealing with a difficult person. Don't limit your exposure to difficult situations because it helps you build resilience. And this will differentiate yourself from your peers. 2 more skills to highlight. This up next is Time management and organization, really critical. Effective time management and organizational skills are essential for meeting deadlines and juggling multiple tasks. So whether you're working from home or you're, full-time in an office, or maybe you're even running your own business, the ability to manage your time effectively is absolutely essential for solid workplace performance. Time management is about working smarter rather than working harder. So, putting in extra hours isn't necessary for people who are great at managing their time. They know when they are the most productive, and they use that time wisely, reserving their less productive hours for more like routine tasks. And I'd also like to add that cultivating effective time management skills is also really important for your mental health, because when you're able to manage your time effectively, you create a better work-life balance for yourself, and ensure that you have room in your life for the things that are really most important to you. And then the very last skill that I'm going to highlight is continuous learning and being curious. This is such an important skill, and I think that everyone must cultivate. Because whatever your age or the industry, if you can spark your desire to learn, you'll be giving yourself the best chance of successful, fulfilling life, especially in the work context. Curiosity and continual learning will help you stay flexible and embrace change, as well as help you keep your skills sharp so you can keep up with all the major changes that are taking place day to day. So those are the 10 skills. I didn't have any slides for the slide deck, but I'm more than happy to add them into slides if you'd like to throw it in here, if you're going to be sending this out to anybody. And there's certainly many other skills that we could highlight too, but those were the top 10 that we wanted to cover with you today.
Great. Ruth, what was the last one? I was typing it into the chat.
Continuous learning and just being curious.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
I think am I handing it off to Roland now?
Yes.
Yes. Why don't we transition to Roland? So, and thank you, Ruth. That was excellent. You just brought up so many great points and things for our young people and older participants as well to think about and consider. So thank you. So Roland, if you wouldn't mind, I have a few questions that I'd like to ask you that will help maybe help some of our students or parents of students as they're preparing to either apply for college or transition to their first year of college. So just wanted to start with, was there anything that surprised you or anything that was unexpected for you when you transitioned to college? So during those first few weeks or first months of your freshman year in college, what was it was there anything that just kind of caught you by surprise or that you hadn't anticipated?
Yeah. So kind of in high school, one of my computer science classes, the teacher told the class that we would be that college was actually going to be in some ways easier than high school, because in high school there's a lot of pressure, and so especially if you're taking a really rigorous course load, the demands are really intense. So he said that, we can in some ways relax in college. And when I got to college, it was actually, I think it was in some ways he was right, but in some ways it was also different. I just think I stayed on campus, so that's the perspective I'm coming from. In terms of course load, for me, it was roughly about the same as high school. Maybe I spent a little bit less time on class. Still like a standard 45 hours a week, and sometimes up to 60, 70, depending on the quarter. But what really stood out to me was the social environment and the just the different amount of responsibilities you have being on your own. I think that's something I didn't expect. And yeah, for me, it was really important to find my own community on campus and really connect with people, because that's what made things more interesting and more fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into my next question for you, Roland, is how did you create or find community on your college campus? Like, what were some of the things that you did to be able to find your people, as Shawneece mentioned?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times people talk about being introvert or extrovert or being this or that, like different types of personality. And I think personally, I'm more of an introvert, but I feel like in order to kind of build a community, it's really helpful to maybe take on the role of an extrovert for a couple moments, like be friendly, especially in a dorm setting, like, hey, what's up? My name's Roland. How you doing? Conversations while you're brushing your teeth, saying hi to the person next to you in your classroom. I think those like small details, I think where I was able to make my friends and kind of start building a community. And then same thing when joining clubs. When the club fair happens the first quarter, don't just walk around and say like, oh, that one looks interesting, maybe I'll join later. Like, go up to the table and introduce yourself, write your name down on an email list. Yeah, you just got to put yourself out there.
Awesome. So if you had any advice to give to students who are in high school now, and who will be applying to colleges, either this year or in the next year or two, what would that advice be? Advice to help current high school students best position themselves in their application process.
I think the key components, I think, at least for me, that I noticed in the application process, were like what was mentioned, letters of rec, extracurriculars, and then like GPA. And in GPA, like making sure you're taking rigorous classes, and extracurriculars, make sure you're like exploring your interests, and try to go in depth, and like how Jenny said, like have a why. And in terms of letter of recs, like really building a strong relationship in terms of asking for help with teachers. I think that's really important, and like how you show up to class, like being a active contributor. A lot of times you just need to demonstrate that you're being engaged and really putting in your effort. Yeah. And then for rising college students, people preparing for college, it's the same thing. I don't start my third year until 2 weeks from now. And the same thing I think that I'm doing, I would recommend to them, is just getting enough sleep, resting up. This was mentioned, I think, a bit in Shawneece's section, but and also maybe Jenny's section, but really knowing who you are and figuring out who you are. And I think during the summer, maybe like reading books and seeing how you react to them and kind of exploring your identity that way. I think that's an important part, is just knowing yourself, so that you're like stable when you get to college. Yeah. And I guess the last thing would be maybe focusing on your weaknesses, especially during the summer when you might have more time. Like perhaps you're working a job, but maybe in the afternoon, like for me, like one of the things, this is a a little bit childish, but I'm a little bit like scared of the dark. So like at night, like staying in my dorm by myself was, I think, a little bit of a challenge some days. So what I've been working on is just like trying to be a little bit braver when it comes to that. And um, you got to experience things so that you know how to react to them when they show up in college. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Roland. I think it's quite apparent why he's a third year at Stanford. He has a lot of insight and good perspective for a young adult. So thank you for sharing. All right. So I think at this point, we will switch over to Q&A. I know that there was one question that was already in the Q&A section here. I think we've, well, a few people have responded to it. Roland answered, Amrita, and I think I put in a few words as well, but just expand more on what is professional mentoring. And so for anyone who can't see the written responses, professional mentoring is being paired or matched with someone who has experience in a field or industry in which you have an interest, and really using or working with that person, that professional, to help guide you in terms of career exploration and career opportunities, maybe preparing, thinking about applying to different jobs or internships, preparing for interviews, and also, which I think is so hugely important and mentioned by Ruth, having a network, developing a professional network, and being able to understand how to leverage that professional network in terms of, being able to get internships or jobs in the future. So hopefully that answers that question about professional mentoring.
I do think that that's important. I'm wondering, Ruth, do you guys do, as part of your profession or typical typical companies, do they do professional mentoring within them?
I've seen professional mentorship programs in the workplace for sure. My current company, I shouldn't say we don't have one. We have them by function. There are certain functions within the company that have it set up. We don't have it for all employees currently, but it's something that we're working towards. But yes, often larger organizations absolutely have mentorship programs within the workplace.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly important for first generation low income students as they're trying to transition into the workforce to take advantage of any professional mentoring opportunities. Most of us, I failed to mention, but I'm a first generation student as well, came from a lower income family, and did not have connections with folks that were executives in corporations, and didn't have family members that were already in the C-suite that could kind of guide me and help me to do that career exploration piece and develop a network. So I had to really find people, again, finding my people, right, that were willing to help me and help, kind of guide me and help me navigate the, different pathways. And it was particularly helpful to have someone to just kind of talk through these things with, again, or if, you were frustrated because you didn't get a particular job after interviewing, someone to kind of go back and, talk it over with. So I think it's particularly helpful and beneficial for the students that we serve here at FCE to be matched with those professional mentors.
Someone did ask in the chat, how do we sign up for this program? So I think that's a question for you, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. So glad that we have interest. So if you go to our website, and I'll ask Amrita to put our website in the chat, but we have our applications link on our website, and it's a pretty straightforward process. Our emphasis again is on working with low-income, first-generation students of color. You don't necessarily have to live in East Palo Alto, even though that's where our office is located. I always say if folks are willing to brave the 101 traffic at rush hour in the evenings to get their students to our campus at least once a week, then we can have a conversation. So would encourage anyone who has more questions or wants more information to apply, and also to reach out to us. All of our emails, and I could put my email in the chat as well. But reach out to us. We're happy to answer questions. Let's see, it looks like we have another question.
I think it's a follow-up of that question because we said first gen and low income, like, is this also open to second generation students? And I'll say there's lots of community organizations as well. But I believe Amrita is also responding to that, but I will also say the person that is asking, you can also contact, I believe Shawneece and me, and we can also share more resources that are available if this specific one from FCE doesn't match.
Yeah, but definitely reach out to us, without knowing all the specifics, around your niece's nephew's situation. I wouldn't want to answer right now, but definitely reach out to us and we can make sure that they get to the resources that they need. If not with FCE, then with another organization.
I would say East Palo Alto in its history, its 40-year history, youth development has been a part of our DNA here. We really value youth and value youth going to college and whatever pathway works for them as well. So there are different options, lots of options in addition to FCE. Sometimes people are enrolled in FCE as well as youth community services. And so because we're building that grit, we're building exposure as well so that they can have the best chance to go to a 4-year college. And so it's important to know your options, which is why I'm here. And FCE is a really great option.
Thank you, Shawneece. All right. So I think we've answered all of our questions. Again, we would just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. It's been our privilege to be able to share this information with you, and hope that it's been helpful. We ask that you share the information that you heard tonight with, again, friends, family, neighbors. And our goal is to make sure that everyone in the community and surrounding areas has information, has access, and knows what their options are. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us, to me, to Jenny, Shawneece. We'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you have. And with that, I think we are going to say goodnight. I want to thank again my lovely co-hosts, Jenny, Shawneece. Want to say thank you to our special guests, to Ruth and to Roland, for taking time out of their day to join us and share their wonderful insights. And we wish you all a very good evening, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.